Do you feel lost? Do you feel like your life is all over? Do you feel like the real you is gone forever, like you can't find you anymore? Perhaps you feel hopeless, like there's no hope for a better future, like it's all over. Sometimes you feel helpless, like nothing that you do seems to be helping. And you're pretty much giving up already, like it's getting really, really difficult. There's this odd combination of anxiety and depression. Like it makes it difficult to fall asleep, and you feel like your chest is pounding all the time, and perhaps you've been to the doctor and there's nothing wrong with your heart, but you feel that you just feel the pounding in the chest all the time, as though you're facing some sort of panic or something. Forget about enjoying food and sex or even dreaming about a better future. You feel like it's all over for you. Is that you? In my experience of 25 years, and in my own case, I have found that people can get there in one of four ways. Either they have been through a very traumatic breakup, like a relationship sort of breakup, or they faced some financial ruin. It's like suddenly they lost everything. It's all over for them. Some people got a very sudden medical diagnosis that is really dire. And other people have lost a loved one in a very unexpected way. I'll give you some examples. A man I worked with was in a very happy relationship, and that relationship, that marriage, was the world to him. His whole life revolved around that relationship. One day he finds out his wife was having an affair and was actually secretly planning on leaving him all along. So, in his mind, she was really nice with him and all, but she was really preparing to dump him and take everything and run away with this other person. So something shattered within him when he discovered what the plan was. And the person that she was interacting with was someone that he knew really well. So there was a double betrayal there, Well, not only his friend betrayed him, but also his wife. And so that really shattered his whole idea of what the world was like. Another woman I worked with, and several people in this category, but a very young woman, 36 years of age, suddenly develops a little discomfort in one of her legs and goes into the doctor. Make a long story short, a bunch of tests are run, and she has advanced cancer spread throughout her body. The doctor only gives her a few months to live. The situation is really, really difficult. And she was very young, had children, a marriage, a life to live. So that kind of situation kind of pulls the rug from under your feet. It's a very difficult situation to deal with. Another man I worked with was a multimillionaire by his own assessment. He told me that he had a net worth of several $1,000,000. And one day makes a decision that results in losing everything he had in a period of 6 months. I've spoke about this man in other videos, and that particular situation really called my attention because it was so sudden, and the day that he realized that it was all over for him, his whole life was over. And then you have people who lose a loved one unexpectedly, and it's different, if you have an older relative who has been ill for a very lengthy period of time and eventually they pass. It hurts if you love that person, but we sort of expect that to happen eventually. Well, in these cases that I'm talking about, we're talking about like a young person who has an accident. I worked with a lady once whose son shot himself. Now, there was a debate whether it was a suicide or an accident or an accidental self-shooting, or whether which would be a little bit different from a suicide, in which case he would have intended on killing himself. He was playing with his pistol, shot himself in the head, and there was a debate there. So this woman was quite destroyed, as you can imagine. A mother losing a son. They couldn't even recover his head, if you can imagine that. because it was a large caliber bullet, close range to the head, and you can imagine the scene the police found when they arrived. So, so these kinds of traumatic losses that are wholly unexpected and quite sudden can generate within us a sense of betrayal, a sense of like a profound sense of injustice. Some people tell me, look, if there was a God, it wouldn't have allowed this to happen. People feel betrayed, not only sometimes by their bodies, in the case of medical diagnosis, sometimes by life, by a partner, by the circumstances, by God, by fate. So the consequence, regardless of how you get there, the consequence is that we end up feeling like it's all over for us. We end up feeling like there's no hope because we feel so bad inside, we shrink inside, the heart closes, and nothing that we do seems to help. It's interesting because people will tell you, well, just have some fun, just go on a trip, just go walk at the beach or whatever the case is, and you may even do all of those things, but you quickly discover that nothing seems to be helping. In other words, the tightness in your chest, the pain in your gut doesn't seem to go away. It's a very, very odd syndrome. It's a very odd constellation of symptoms. And, you know, when I went through that experience, massive betrayal, I had already been a therapist for 18 years. I was used to working with people in that situation. And yet when I found myself staring at the wall, looking at the ceiling, wondering, you know, how long until I was buried, you know, ended up having a near-death experience, was a traumatic moment in my life, you know. Looking back, you know, I smile because, you know, now that I have so much desire to live, I look back and I go, wow, you know, a few years ago, I was really, really, really just hoping to be done as quickly as possible, and nothing helped. So, having been a therapist for 18 years, I went to the very best in the field. I went to my colleagues. I went to the people who were the very best. I knew who the best were. I traveled extensively, not only in the United States, but internationally. I knew who the very top of the top was in the profession, and I went to see a bunch of them. I think I ended up at 15 therapists, and you know, they're all wonderful, they're all great, but I couldn't find any help. There was this idea that, you know, we have to deal with the symptoms one at a time. So some of these therapists wanted to, and medical doctors wanted to treat me only for the anxiety so that I could start sleeping again. That is an intelligent thing to do, and I think that's important to do. But I knew that getting into medications, for me at the time, it wasn't the right alternative. You know, it would be very easy, I thought, for me to get, because I had already worked 18 years as a therapist and I had seen people in that situation, they get into the medication, they become completely dependent on the tranquilizers to be able to sleep and function, and eventually they cannot wake up anymore because, as you know, the body adapts and you have to increase the dosage. Eventually they cannot wake up, so now we have to start taking stimulants in the morning to be able to function, and next thing you know, all of these medications become, you know, we have to raise the dosages, and eventually the levels become toxic. They cannot increase the dosage anymore, and then they call them, you know, treatment resistant, you know. So it's a very sad situation, but I didn't want to go down that path. And I'm not saying that this happens to everybody or that's the norm. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that was my experience at that point. And so I refused to take on medications to sleep. And other people saw me, other therapists, very qualified professionals, looked at me, talked to me, and said, well, look, there's a component of depression, and it's true. You know, when you feel hopeless and you don't know what to do with your life, that portion of it can be classified as depression. Now, I believe in the DSM, which is the book from the American Psychiatric Association that doctors use to diagnose you. I don't recall it now. I haven't looked at it for a while, but I believe to diagnose you with depression, it takes 6 weeks of consistent symptoms. I hadn't been feeling that way for 6 weeks yet. I was feeling desperate. And so I don't think I qualified for the official diagnosis of depression, but I felt depressed. I felt like it was all over for me, right? Hopeless and helpless. But I knew that treating me for depression, which often includes medication as well, wasn't quite the right approach either. One of the first things I needed was to understand what actually had happened. And I found that, getting into this conversation as to what really happened here, how did this really happen, that is not something that is common in the industry. The idea is, let's deal with the symptoms. Well, I persisted in going to several other professionals, all excellent, but I couldn't find any help. And in my experience, people who have come to the office, I've now been a therapist for 25 years. This happened when I was at my 18-year mark. But I have often found people who tell me exactly that. Well, this is not like what I've experienced before. We deal with it very differently. Perhaps because I have a background in philosophy, in engineering, in therapeutics, in mysticism, so I approach this whole process from a very different angle, and we get fantastic results. So the question is, what can you do if you're feeling this way? You can find the help, and you can go through the motions, and oftentimes they teach you to be okay with your symptoms, and people begin to feel very, very, very decreased on the inside, if that makes any sense. We learn to cope with our symptoms. We learn to manage our symptoms, but people tell me, I still hurt inside. Listen, I remember at the time I went to a conference because I kept working at a very reduced level. I was not well myself, and so it was very difficult to carry a full schedule. At the time, I ran a very busy practice and saw 10 people a day. It was a very, very busy practice. But I couldn't do that anymore. I would feel fatigued mentally, and furthermore, I would think about my own situation, and so I couldn't see the client. But I kept seeing a few clients. I kept working and also teaching for a while. And I went to a conference a few years back. And I spoke to this man whom I had known for some good 20 years already from other conferences, not 20 years. I had known him for a good 10 years, I suppose. And beautiful friend of mine, great therapist, who've exchanged many stories. These friends that we get together with in conferences are people that we typically see once or twice a year. But when we do get together, it's like, oh man, how are you doing? How has it been for you? So that kind of friend. Well, this man shared with me that this is where I got the 20 from, that he had a similar breakdown 20 years earlier. And although he learned to cope with it, to live with it, to function, and he was quite functional, he had been remarried. In his case, there was a marital breakdown as well. He told me that the pain that he felt when the original event happened 20 years earlier was still there. He just learned how to camouflage it. He just learned how to cover it up and manage it and continued his life. But he told me that the pain was still there. And when he told me that story, when he shared that with me, because I shared with him what was happening with me, and he said, oh, let me tell you a story. And he tells me his story. Man, I had chills in my bones. I figured, dude, I cannot go through 20 years of this. I cannot. I know that the body will not handle this, and I'll die. This cannot possibly last for 20 years. So, dude, I got back from that conference, and I went to work. I hit it hard. I started studying all of my notes, everything that I knew, all of the people that I had already helped in similar conditions. I started putting it all together. What are the common factors and what are the techniques that can actually help a person in this situation? I wrote the book, Awesome Again, which is a treatise on number one, the fact that we can change and heal, and also how to do it. And incidentally, the book is now going into its second edition. I'm really happy about that because I've learned even more since the book came out. So I'm going to be removing it from Amazon soon and putting the second edition in, which is improved with better techniques and so forth. But I wrote that book and started working more and more with people that were in this situation, this hopelessness, this helplessness, right? I've since helped 597 people specifically in this situation that I call the Awesome Again program. It's like when a person feels that they had an awesome life, some catastrophic thing happened, and they feel broken and helpless, and now they're looking to recover their life, get their lives back. I just call it the Awesome Again, which is the title of the book, but it's also the work that I do, the name that I gave to the program that I work with. So I can help you get your life back. I've done it before, I have lived it, and I can help you do the same thing. In fact, I am so confident and I am so touched by this issue because I went through it. And when I was going through it, I remember telling myself, dude, I would give anything if I could possibly get my life back. I don't care about cars, houses, money, clothing, furniture, nothing. I don't care about anything. I want my life back because with my life, I can get all of those things as well. But without my life, without me, I cannot get anything. Nothing matters. Look, I couldn't. Okay, forget about enjoying like female company, whatever. That was totally out of the question. But even something as simple as food, enjoying the flavor, enjoying a meal, not even that. So I ended up just eating cookies for a while, and it was just horrible. I'm still dealing with some of those consequences. I gained weight, and I'm still adjusting my weight back down to normal, and it's been it's been a challenge. I mean, there's some consequences, but the overall the soul has healed, and that's what's important, because with the soul healed, we can work on weight adjustment, we can work on building wealth, we can work on establishing awesome relationships, but without our soul we cannot do anything. We can't live. We don't have the stamina, the focus, the vision to live our lives. And if you are in this situation, if you're listening to me now, you know what I'm talking about. So this is something important to me. And I vowed to myself when I was in a deep, dark hole that if I got out, I would help other people get out as well. That was kind of a promise I made between God and I want to keep this promise, and I have been keeping this promise, and I want to share with you how this whole program works. So if you want to get your life back, and if what I'm saying to you makes any sense to you, put your name and email address in the form below this video, and we'll book a time to talk, and we'll have a session. This session, this conversation between you and I personally, this is not a recorded video. This is not with an assistant coach of mine. This is you and I talking. The session is not a sales talk. I'm not there. I'm not going to get on a phone call with you or a Zoom meeting with you to try to sell you anything. That's not. I do have programs that other students get a benefit from, but that's not what I'm offering you now. I decided in anticipation of the holidays, my gift, right, is 20 sessions. The sessions cost $597. So it's not free. I'm paying for them, right? But I'm giving away, I'm offering for the first 20 people that want to book the sessions, $597 value, an opportunity to put your name and an email address below. You're going to get a calendar link. You're going to pick a time. You and I are going to go at it, a full session, an actual work session. I'll do exercises with you, a full session. It's not a disguised sales call. It's not one of those. I have been probably through hundreds of those calls, and they call them a discovery call. Let's find out if what I have to offer is a good fit for you. And what they're really pushing is for a sale of a program. I can do that as well, but this is not what this opportunity is. It's a great deal. It's a great value. It's an actual session with you to get your life back. Now, there's only one caveat, and that is that I can only make 20 of these slots available going into the holidays. So if you are ready to get your life back, if you really want to work on this, then jump on this opportunity. Put your name and email address. We're going to go through the process. We're going to find a time to meet. You're going to get the calendar link. There are 20 spots available, and we're going to go to work at it. So you're going to get a ton of value from this session. In fact, the sessions cost $597. You're not going to pay anything. You don't have to give me your credit card, and we're not going to discuss any other sales or any other products or services. We're just going to work with you, on your life, on getting your life back. Now, in the past, when I have spoken to people about this, sometimes they tell me, well, I don't need to go to another therapist because I have a good support system. I have good friends and family, and they're helping me through this. And frankly, I also had friends, and I still do, but I'm saying at the time I had friends and family. And here's the thing with friends and family: they cannot help us. So watch. Some people, they have never been through this situation. They might be a specialist, they might be an excellent therapist, but they cannot help you because they have never been through this situation. You see, so they cannot relate, they cannot understand you. There is no official designation or diagnosis for the type of problem I'm talking about. There's anxiety, depression, there's the bereavement disorder, there are all kinds of other diagnoses. But there isn't one that really fits what I'm talking about and what I'm talking about, because you're experiencing it. If you're identifying with what I'm saying, you're experiencing it. So the important thing here is that the people who have not been through this process, even if they are a specialist at the process of change, they cannot help. And then you have some other people who may have been through this, maybe an uncle of yours, maybe an aunt, maybe your mother, your father, a friend of yours. They've been there, but they're not a specialist at the process of change. They're not a therapist. And so they try to help, they mean well, and they tell you what worked for them, but they're not a specialist at helping you get the results that you need now. And so they cannot help. So, you need outside professional help. And then people tell me, yeah, but when I'm going through this, I'm not working. Oftentimes that's the case. And I say, I know. And that's why I'm making this gift. Okay, I'm paying for this session, one session. But this one session will get the ball rolling for you. If you're ready for it, we'll get the ball rolling for you, And there may be, most likely there will be more work you're going to have to do later. Whether, it doesn't matter how you do that. You're going to have enough tools there that you can continue working on your own or with someone else or with me. Potentially, I have very few spots available, but, we can contemplate the possibility. But my intention is only to give you the gift of hope once again and begin the process of change. So if you're ready to get your life back, all you have to do is put your name and email address, your best email address, in the form below. And we're going to communicate. You're going to get a calendar link. We're going to schedule a time to meet online through Zoom. I'll send you a link and so forth. It will feel, if you're not used to this, it's going to feel just like we're in front of one another there. It's going to feel very natural after a couple minutes. Some of you are really used to working through Zoom. Some of you are not. It's okay. I wasn't either at one time. But eventually, your brain adjusts. And it is just like the person is in front of you. I actually started working remotely back in 2011, way before the pandemic, through Skype, because I'm in Miami, Florida, and a lot of the clients at the office had friends and relatives in different countries, and they would recommend me to their friends and family, and I started working with people all over South and Central America. Now I've worked with people in many, many places throughout the world. But I'm telling you that if you're not used to working that way, eventually you adapt and it works really well. But what's important here is that we can get started. You see, we can get started and at least remove the layer of hopelessness that perhaps has been clouding your vision and giving you an opportunity to begin the process of getting your life back. It's a valuable opportunity. I can only do this for 20 of you. And this is not a sales gimmick. I'm not trying to, I'm just telling you, I can only do 20 because I also have to make a living, right? So 20. And that is my gift. So if this is something that you are ready for, if this is something that you identify with, then look, there's no credit card required. All you need to do, and there's no attempt to sell you anything. This is not a disguised sales call. It's an actual opportunity to work with me for 1 hour at no cost to you. I'm picking up the cost, right? So all you have to do is put your name and best email address in the form below, and we'll go through the process of finding a time to meet, and we're going to go at it. Now, let's see if this is really for you. I'm talking about people who, like me at one time, not anymore, but I'm talking about people who at this time are feeling hopeless, helpless, broken somehow. Somehow they feel like their lives are kind of over, but a short while ago, you're awesome, you're great, you had a great life. And one of four types of things happened to you. Perhaps it was a major separation, a massive breakup, and it left you kind of, the rug was pulled from under your feet and you don't know what to do with your life now. Or maybe you're facing a very tough medical diagnosis. Now, incidentally, if that's your situation, we're not going to practice medicine. The point isn't to deal with the diagnosis itself. The point is to deal with the consequences, the emotional consequences of the diagnosis you're facing, right? Some of you may have lost a loved one in a very unexpected way, in a way that really, really broke you down. And some of you may have experienced what I call financial ruin. Maybe you lost everything, or maybe you are on the verge of losing everything, or you feel that way at least, and that has you quite desperate, quite devastated, quite desperate. So one of those four types of things, with the variations, but one of those types of things has happened to you recently. And although you just a short while back had an awesome life, you're now facing a situation where you're stare at the walls and you have no idea what to do with your life. That's what I'm talking about. I call that getting your life back. I call that returning to that sense of well-being that you had not long ago. And it is urgent that you and I start working on this, because otherwise we become used to that situation. The problem becomes chronic. And then in other words, it becomes a new normal for us. And once it becomes chronic, solving the problem becomes way more difficult, because now that became our new normal. Now we've installed new habits. The brain has formed new synapses. There's a whole chapter in the book, by the way, on neuroplasticity, and explain why that happens and how that happens, and how this new normal to later change becomes a much more challenging problem. So it's urgent, if you have faced a recent situation of a major loss of the types that I have described, which caused you to end up feeling betrayed, a major sense of injustice, a massive bitterness in your soul. That's what I'm talking about, bitterness in your soul, right? Then I'm here to offer you a hand, to offer you the opportunity to work with me, no cost to you, a real session with me, not a pre-recorded video, 20 of you only. The first 20 of you, this is true first come, first serve, right? So the first 20 of you. and then we'll go from there. So act quickly. As soon as, if you're watching me now, put your name and best email address below. We're going to go through a process where you're going to get a calendar link. We're going to pick a time to meet, and we're going to go to work. All right? Now, if you choose not to take this step, if you choose not to take opportunity of this offer, or if you're watching this, if for some reason this video is not taken down, and I have already gotten the 20 people that want to work with me, and you're still watching me, I have several suggestions for you. The first one is, whatever you do, do something, because keep on trying, keep on working at it, because the worst thing that can happen here is for this state to become permanent and chronic in your life. That's the worst thing that can happen. So keep on looking, keep on working on it, because you deserve your life back. I'm looking forward to working with you and showing you how to do this, and working with you and doing the exercises. So I'm really hoping that you will take action right now, but only if it's a good fit, right? We're not gonna have a whole sales call to determine if this is a good fit. This is exactly what I'm telling you. If you have recently faced a massive loss, and you right now feel hopeless, helpless, you feel anxious, depressed, you feel like you cannot sleep or eat or wake up, and you feel like you're staring at the walls and you have no idea, and you lost your vision for your life, and you feel bitterness in your soul, but you're an awesome person, and you want to get your life back as quickly as possible, you just don't know how, or you haven't found the right help, then for 20 of you, what I can do is I can work with you at my cost for 1 hour. In other words, there is no cost or obligation or strings attached to you in any way, shape, or form. All you have to do is put your name and best email address below. We're going to set a time to meet, and we're going to go to work. It's not a disguised sales call. It's not a call to determine if we're a good fit for one another. It's an actual, therapeutic session. It's an actual session for you, the same one that I do with paying clients. The only distinction is that I only have 20 spots available as a gift to the community, right? So if you are that person, then take advantage of this offer quickly, because there's only 20 and they'll go fast. So take advantage of this, do this quickly, and we're going to meet this week. I'm confident that we can meet this week. I have a few spots available, and we're going to meet either this week or as soon as possible, because that's another thing. There's a sense of urgency in there. Now, don't be deceived by this notion that your support system will help. It's good that you have a support system, but in of itself, friends and family cannot help you. If they could help you, you wouldn't have been in this situation to begin with. Trust me, I've been there. And I've worked with many people in the same situation. Been a therapist for 25 years. And incidentally, if we haven't met, my name is Dr. Flavio. We've been doing this for a while, and I've worked with 12,000 people over 25 years through in-depth therapy, one-on-one. And I can tell you that, support systems, they're great. They feel great for a good life. But when we have a massive catastrophic event in our lives, the support system is good and it is helpful, but it isn't sufficient to get us out of the hole. You're going to need help. Now, when you look for professional help, you're going to find two things out there. Some people, they haven't been lost, they haven't been broken, they haven't faced a catastrophe, so they cannot relate, they cannot help you. And other people, they have been there, but they're not specialists at the process of helping you change your mind and heal. And so they can't help either. I know because I've been there. I went to the best of the best. I traveled. I went international. I went to several states in the union looking, because I know the best in the business. And I had to figure out how to do this on my own. And I'm now here to help you do the same, because you deserve your life back. Now, there are no strings attached. The offer is really simple, very transparent. You can hold me to it, 20 of you. Absolutely no cost to you, no credit card required, and not a sales call. Okay? In fact, that's my pledge to you. We're not going to discuss any programs or anything like that. We're going to have an actual therapeutic session. In other words, it's like you've already paid for it. I paid for it, right? So it's an actual session that we book, and we're going to go to work at it. So if you're ready to change, I mean, I don't want to just put your name in there because you just want to talk to me about, that wouldn't really work either, because, there's a mutual understanding there that I'm talking to those of you who have recently faced a catastrophic event which caused you to feel lost and hopeless, but who used to have an awesome life, and you want to get your life back, and you're in a hurry to get back to your true life, to your true self. If that's you, I'm talking to you directly. If that's you, you and I can do great. Let's have this opportunity. Let's take advantage of this opportunity. Only 20 of you. I can only do this for 20 of you. Otherwise, we're gonna have to go through the regular process of booking a session, whatever. But this video is only going to be up for a day at most, I suppose. And the 20 of you who hear this will put your name and best email address on the form below, and we're going to go at it then. Okay? So blessings to all of you, and whatever paths your life takes you through, I bless you, and I really honestly wish you the best. I have been there, and I know how it feels. I really know how it feels. I have really been there, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't think I was going to get out. I thought that was it. I thought it was done. But I guess God had other plans, and here we are working with other, helping many, many other people live awesome lives. Mega blessings to all of you, and we'll be talking soon.